So hopefully you've already started by watching the cos sheet and you've got a bit of an idea what to do here. Now remember, for sine we need, it's the SOC part of good old SOHCAHTOA. Don't forget SOHCAHTOA. And that means that we need to use the formula sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. Now I'm only going to do every second question or so, and I'm going to get straight on to the second sheet, because most of you did this last year and you all missed the second sheet, but anyway, that's okay. So the first thing we have to do, and this is what's good about these sheets, is they are scaffolded. You need to work out the sides. So going from the angle that they give you, not the right angle, you need to label all of the sides. Now remember, I said the easiest one to do is opposite the right angle, because that one is always the hypotenuse. And then the other one, remember, next to is this one here. That would be the adjacent, but we don't have a letter or a number on that one. And then we've got this one over here, so that would be the opposite. Now that's handy because we're doing sine today, aren't we? Which needs the opposite over the hypotenuse. So all that first question is just practicing putting in the O and the H. So remember, put the H in first, and then the other one will be the O. Always going from where the angle is, not the right angle. So questions 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are just practicing on your calculator again. You don't really need to do those unless you want to, because I really want you to get into these ones. Okay, don't like that, the way they do that. So let's have a go. So the first thing you always need to do when you're doing these is you've got to label your sides. So you'll notice they've labelled the O and they've labelled the H. Remember, the H is the easiest because it's opposite the right angle. And then the O is next because it's opposite the angle that we need to use in the question. All right. So remember, we always put, here's our formula, sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. So we always put the angle 28 degrees where the theta goes. So that's why we've written it down here. And we're going to put the opposite side, which we don't know at the moment. That's an X. X goes on top. And the hypotenuse has a 31 on it, so that goes on the bottom. Right, beautiful. So the next thing we need to do is we have an equation. And in an equation, we need to get the letter X, pardon me, by itself. So that's X divided by 31. So the opposite of dividing is to times. Okay, so when we've got a 31 on the top of a fraction and a 31 on the bottom of a fraction, we can cancel them out, and that leaves us with X on its own, which is written down here. And then I'm just going to rewrite this, and I'm going to put it into these boxes. Okay, so the 31 goes first, and the sine 28 goes second. So now do that straight on your calculator. Okay, so I'm going to press 31. Turn my calculator on first. 31. Now I'm not sure, you can test it. I'm going to press sine and then 28, close my brackets and see. It does give me the answer. If I went 31 times sine 28, it gives me exactly the same answer. So you don't have to press the times if you don't want to. Just test it on your calculator first. The answer I got on my calculator was this, 14.5536. It's to 1 decimal place. So cross off all of those ones, keep the 5, look at the first number you're going to cross off, it's a 5. Remember, if it's 5 or more, that means we're going to add 1, doesn't it? Add 1 to that 5. So my answer is 14.6. So if you've watched the cos video already, that's what you do there. So let's do a similar one here. So there's my answer there. Sorry, pause the video if you are not quite finished writing. Now I'm going to leave 1, because 1 looks pretty much the same as that, doesn't it? So question number 1 is the same working as question number 11 there. I'm going to have a go at question number, not 2. I'm going to have a go at question number, no, 3's got a bit of working out there for you too, and scaffolding. So 3 is the same as the one we just did as well. Let's try one over here. All right, let's try 5. 5 is the same. Now the reason why I'm doing 5 is there's less scaffolding for you, and I need you to be able to do these on your own without all the scaffolding. So the first thing I always do is I write down the formula. Now it's not always going to be sine, but I know it's sine today because it's the sine sheet. I'll give you another sheet in the next lesson where you can practice which one it is. So the first thing we need to do is we need to label our sides. So opposite the right angle is that side, so that's my H. Okay, now here's my angle. Opposite my angle of 83 is my C, so that's my opposite side. This one over here is next to the angle. I sometimes like to put the A in first, and then that means the last side that's left is an O anyway. Alright, so now let's fill in this formula on this line. So I've got sine theta. Now theta is the angle 83. Opposite, I don't know, that's the letter C. And hypotenuse is that 417. So the first thing I do is I make an equation. Alright, so the next thing I have to do is solve my equation for C. So down here, I'm going to put C equals. So I need to get C on its own. To get C on its own, I've got to get rid of the 417. So since the 417 is on the bottom, then if I multiply by 417, and remember what I do to one side, I must do to the other, then if I have the 417 on the top and on the bottom, that's the same as over 1 if you're wondering, then what I've done is I've actually got C on its own. And remember, I just take what this is and I write it down here. So now I've got 417 times sine 83. So I'm going to do that on my calculator and get my answer for C. So 417 times, or don't press times, just press sine, and then 83, and I get 413.8917. Now, I believe we're doing it to one decimal place like before, so it's 89, so my second number is a 9, so that means I have to round the 8 up, and I'm rounding the 8 up to a 9, so I'll write that down there for you. So 413.8917 was the decimal I got. Since that's a 9, and I've got to round it to one decimal place, that means I'm going to add 1 to the 8. Now my units are in millimetres, so I'm going to put millimetres. Okay, now 6 has the hypotenuse, so you do that one the same way, so that you know what to do. 7 is a little bit different, and let's have a go at 8. You're finding the hypotenuse, so I'm going to have a go at 9 in a minute. Alright, so now I'll try and show you the second style. So it's up to you if you want to do these. If you're finding them really hard and you can't remember them, these ones are really heavily scaffolded, so I would suggest you try these. Okay, now 12 is the same, finding the side, but the one I want to do, and so is 13, finding a side. The one I want to do that's different, and I'm going to do it in green to show you that it's different, is number 14. So when you get to number 14, you will notice this time you have the letter X on the hypotenuse. So the first thing they've done is they've labelled our sides O and H. So you're going to find it's one of these ones. So O is 3.5 and H is X. Okay, so this time you've got your letter on the bottom. So over here, remember the letter was on the top. So this one now the letter's on the bottom, so it's a bit different. Easiest way to do this, and I'll show you the long way, the shortcut, is to swap the X and the sine 18. I'll show you the mathematical idea behind it first, and then you can see that the shortcut is a little bit easier. So just like before, the mathematical way I'll do this, and I'll just get rid of that, I know it's in the way, but anyway, is we get rid of the X first. So we do that by multiplying both sides by the X. When I multiply both sides by the X goes, and I end up with X times sine 18 equals 3.5. Okay, now what's happening now is, for an equation, I need the X to be on its own. So I need to get rid of the sine 18. So I do the opposite of timesing by sine 18, and I divide. Now what I do to one side, I must do the other. You'll notice on this left-hand side, there's a sine 18 on the top and the bottom, so I can cross them off. And I'm left with that on the left. Sorry, that's the right, isn't it? And now I'm just going to rewrite that over here. So 3.5 sine 18. So the quick way is here, you just swap the x and the sine 18. If you want to go the mathematical way, you times both sides by x, and then you divide both sides by sine 18. Either way, you end up with this, okay, as you're working out. So you choose the way that you would prefer to do. That's the mathematical explanation or the shortcut. So now on your calculator, you need to do 3.5 divided by sine 18. Now remember, if you're using the sharp, can you put the bottom section in brackets if you don't get my answer? That might be all you need to do. If you're using a Casio or a sharp, you can use the fraction key. So I'm going to go 3.5 fraction key and then sine 18. Now the Casio is pretty good. It does it automatically, and I think if you're using that iPad calculator, it probably will as well. But if it's not giving you the answer that I'm about to get, which is, oh, I just lost it, bugger. Sine, no, 3.5, fraction key, sine 18. Now, close brackets on the Casio if it opens the brackets on the bottom, otherwise it's going to give you math error. It's really annoying. And I get 11.32. Now remember, if you haven't watched my cosine video yet, you need to make sure you have a little D symbol up the top there, degrees. Otherwise you've got to press that DRG button if you've got a sharp. Otherwise, if you've got a Casio, you've got to press shift and then mode or setup, which is next to the on button on my calculator. And you should get 8 things on your screen: math, line, deg, rad, gra, fix, sine, norm. You want to press 3 for deg, okay? And that automatically puts it in degrees for you. If you've got a sharp, you press the DRG button until it says D on your screen. You just keep pressing it. Okay, so I got 11.32623. All right, and I need it to 1 decimal place according to this. So that means I'm going to keep the 3 but get rid of the 2. So the 2 is telling me not to round up the 3, so my answer is 11.3. Okay, so that's the second way of doing these. If you want more practice, have a go at 16 is the same as that. So is 15. Otherwise, come over here with me. So what I need you to do now, just to show you, this one here, you're finding the hypotenuse. I'll label it green, so it's the same. You really need to practice these on this side. Okay, so second sheet must be done. Question number 4 has less scaffolding, so I'm going to go over that with you, okay, just so you know what to do. So the first thing you need to do for question 4 is you need to label the sides. All right, so first of all, opposite the right angle, hypotenuse, nice and easy. Here's my angle. Next to my angle is my adjacent, but I don't have a circle there, do I? So over here is my O. So I've got a letter and a number on the H and the O, so I automatically know, considering it's a sine sheet, that I'm going to use sine. So I'm going to write here sin or sine. I'm going to write the angle 41, and remember it's opposite over hypotenuse. So it's 173 because that's on the opposite side, and it's over x because that's on the hypotenuse side. All right, so we've got to do it the same way as we did this one. I'm going to do it the swap method because I find that's the quickest. You can write swap down there if you want. So I'm going to swap these two together. So the x is going to go over there. Now remember, the number always stays on top. Don't try and put the sin 41 on the top. It never goes on the top. So that's all you have to do with the swap method, okay? All right, now I'm going to put that in my calculator. Riley's calling, so I'm going to have to stop in a minute. 173 over sine 41, close brackets, and I get 263.7 6, 9, so that rounds up to 7. All right. Talk soon. I'll give you some more answers in a minute. See you.